Hi everyone, welcome to episode 60 of Pantry to Plate. I am Kristen, the food bank dietitian, and we are coming to you from the Kaiser Permanente Learning Kitchen at the Atlanta Community Food Bank. It is Vidalia onion season, and I said that correctly. It is Vidalia because that's where I'm originally from. You've probably heard them as Vidalia onions, the sweet onions that folks like to just pick up and take a bite out of it fresh out of the ground. Never done that before, but people do it all the time because Vidalia onions are super sweet and they're known around the world. People love them during their growing season. So first, before we get into some details about onions in general, I want to start showing you how to do a quick caramelize on your onions. Then we're going to hop back into some more details. So I'm going to show you here real quick. I've got one diced onion. So I've got a pan over here that is screaming hot. It's on high temperature. So typically with caramelizing onions, you would start with some oil and you would start with a low temperature. And it's going to take upwards 40, 45 minutes to get a nice slow caramelization. This is going to be your quick method to save you some time. We're not going to start with any oil. This is my hot pan. It is on high. I'm going to add my chopped onion to the pan, and then I'm going to add some water. So instead of using oil at the beginning, we've got the pan super hot. I'm going to add about a quarter cup of water here. And then I'm going to put the lid on. Yep, that's what's going to happen. I'm going to put the lid on. And we're going to let them steam. So we're just going to leave them here and we'll come back. This step takes about 10 minutes. So basically you are cooking the onions through first. And then once you take the lid off, you will finish evaporating off the water. And then that's when the brown starts to come in. But quick note here, don't take the lid off in the 10 minutes. Leave it. Your onions may burn a little bit. That is like the secret of this. If they burn, they're going to be caramelized better. So leave the lid on, leave the temperature on high. I know it's hard, but don't touch it. Okay, so we'll come back at the end. I'll tell you about that second way to caramelize onions. But first, I want to talk about how we're going to save onions for later. So we often get onions from our local farmers around Georgia, and I'm going to show you how you can cut them, how you can freeze them, and how you can store them to extend their shelf life. So first off, we've got this awesome graphic that's going to show you in detail how to do these steps. So what you can do is, oops, wrong direction. I know it's going to do that. There we are. So what we can do is you can pause your camera here and you can look at this in detail. Also, at the end of the video, you can go into the resources link and see this image there as well. So here's some really great ways for you to store your onions to make them last longer. First off is you can place them like on an elevated rack. That's that top corner. So you can keep airflow around them. Basically, that's the key for making the fresh onions last longer is to make sure that they have airflow around them. So you could use that rack option. My favorite is the pantyhose option. So I will show you in just a second what that looks like. But you can place your onion in the pantyhose and tie a knot and then go ahead and stack your onions through the whole pantyhose leg. That way they can hang in a cool and dry place until you're ready to use them. So you've got the really great airflow when you use the pantyhose method. And when you're ready to use an onion, you're going to start at the bottom and you're going to take your scissors and snip right below the closest knot to the bottom. That way that onion will fall out and the rest are going to stay saved. So that's really cool and fun. I've done that before with my extra Vidalia onions. So you can also freeze your onions. So we've talked about freezing produce a lot in Pantry to Plate. So there's two ways. It also applies to your onions. You can chop them and freeze them on a baking sheet like you see in the picture. And then once they are frozen completely, you can transfer them to a storage container to stay in your freezer. That way, all of the pieces are not going to be stuck together in clumps, and you can take what you need and easily not use everything up at the same time. You can also chop them up, go ahead and put them in your storage bag or container and stick them in the freezer. Now, if you choose that method, you will want to potentially use smaller containers. So you could use smaller portions in more containers so you have less to thaw out, and it could be like enough for a meal. So you could do like 1 cup portions of chopped onion. So it doesn't matter if they are frozen and stuck together, because you will just need that whole portion that's in a separate container. I think that makes sense. Let's see. You can also now store your fresh onions in the refrigerator. This is like typically been like a no-no, but I thought this was really interesting. If you have a crisper drawer in the bottom of your refrigerator with a little slidey, humidity lever, I guess. You can wrap your onions in like a dry paper towel or some newspaper. You can store them in the drawer and close that humidity option. So you want to keep any humidity out of it or in it. I'm getting that backwards. Either way, they need to be wrapped, and you can keep them in that bottom drawer in your fridge. So that will help to maintain their shelf life for longer, and that also helps with the next awesome step, which is cutting them and not crying. Okay, cool. So we're gonna go into cutting our onions here. So I've got 2 separate Vidalia onions that what makes them look really unique is their flat shape. So they're gonna look flat like this. This one looks like it might have some dirt or some stuff underneath the skin. So we're gonna cut it open and see what it looks like, because if you've got a couple of dirty layers at the top of your onion, it's not a problem. You're just gonna pull them right off. So with all onions, this applies to all onions, you want to identify your top and your bottom. So your top is gonna be where the green stalk grows out of the ground, and then your bottom is going to be where the root is. So sometimes it's got some little strands on here. I call it the hairy end, and this is the top. So to save yourself some time and hold everything together while you're trying to cut it, you want to cut off the top and leave the bottom intact the whole time. So first thing that we're going to do is we're going to slice off the top portion, and we're not going to cut off the bottom. So we got that top. Now we're going to turn it over, and we're going to cut it through the middle of the root. So we've got root on both sides. So I'm going to come down just like this. All right, so still got some root portion on both sides there. Now this is where we peel, because we've got a good handle here. So you want to peel deep enough where you get all of these papery, dry pieces off. So it's going to just look a little bit of a different color. So it's usually 1 or 2 layers down. If you don't get all of those dry pieces from the outside off, they're a little bit tough. And you will notice as you're cutting it that it feels tough. It doesn't cut as easily as the rest. So, and when you go to cook it, I don't think you will notice in the final product, but it's just a little bit more tough. So, okay, here we go. Let me get this other one. We're gonna go a couple layers down. There we go. Here we go. Okay. Oh, so a little tip, my onions over here in the pan, it looks like the water has almost all evaporated off. That is what we want it to do, and we're gonna let it keep going. Okay, so here's our 2 onion halves. I like that these 2 are uneven, and I'm gonna show you why. So when you've got a shorter half, you don't have to do this additional step. But when you've got a taller half, to make sure your pieces are uniform in after you cut it, you're going to cut a horizontal line in this direction. So I'm going to take my hand and hold it like this and keep all my fingers away. And then I'm just going to go halfway and I'm going to cut through, and I'm not going to cut all the way to the root. Here we go. So we're still intact, root still intact. Now this next step is going to be for both sides of the onion, whether it's smaller or larger. From this step, this is where you decide how big you want your onion pieces to be. So if you want a big dice, you're going to make wide cuts here. If you want a small dice, small fine pieces, you're going to make skinnier cuts in this direction. So what did I say? Keep the root intact. So you're going to make your cuts away from the roots, and you're going to make sure that you don't cut all the way through that side, okay? I like to start in the middle with this. So I'm going to first do I'm going to do a dice, like just a medium size, and then I'm going to show you how to just cut it into strips. So I like to get close there, just like that, and cut down. All right, and then I'm going to do a regular dice. So I'm going to do like, I don't know, maybe a 1/2 inch, make another slice, and just go around the side and come back over this side. So here we go. You're basically following the lines on the onion. It's already ready for you to go and cut those lines. So all of this is still intact. You can see all of these slices. Now, if you have ever cut an onion before, you might find you have some pieces fall out and you're trying to hold it all together, and then you have to go chase them around. This way, it's all being held together by the root, and you just have to hold it from this back side. So now we're just going to cut it in this direction. So here we go. There we go. And then as you cut it, it's just going to fall off in a dice. There we go. So no extra pieces that I got to find and cut off. Once this gets skinny and it's a little hard to cut here, I just flip it down and cut around the edges, just like so. And then I'll come back over here and do this a couple times to get close to the root. And then there's your root. And we're going to toss that piece. And I'm not crying. So Vidalia onions are known for being sweet, and that also helps them to not be super strong when you're going to cut them. Whoops. I'm just going to show you. Oh, here we go. I got another onion. There's the dice one more time. Quick slices, opposite direction. Might take a little back here. Got closer that time. Flip it over. Cut around. There you go. That is the diced onion. Okay, so remember when I said we can store our onions in the fridge? We can use that method to also help us not cry when we're cutting onions. So today with the sweet onions, they usually have a little less strength in their sulfur smell that makes us cry. But still, sometimes it'll get you. I smell it just a little bit, but it's not very strong. I'm going to take a look at my pan right here, make sure everything's looking good. Let's see. Cool. We've got a great amount of time. It's about 10 minutes on this steam step. So there we go. So here we are. So it's all almost dry. Look, and so it is burnt. That is totally fine. It's going to help us with the caramelizing. I don't know if you can see it super well, but they look clear. So they are cooked all the way through. And that water step helps us to get them cooked through. And then now we're going to add a little bit of oil and then cook them for a few more minutes, and then they will be caramelized. So let me grab some oil. I'm just going to put a little bit of olive oil in here. All right. All right, so got my onions and my oil in there. Perfect, so I'm gonna let them go on the stove top for a few minutes. You can reduce your heat here to about medium high so they don't burn too much more. Okay, let's keep going with this onion. So we're talking about, I was right, this one's got a little weird layer on the outside, so this is a great teachable moment. So even when you store your onions in a pantyhose or in the refrigerator, there is possibility that some of the outside layers can go bad. The inside is still going to be completely fine because the layers of the onions are compact. So I've got a, it's a little bit juicy here under this papery layer. So I'm going to treat it like I did with my first onion. I'm going to cut off the top, just a thin slice on the top. Okay. And then I'm going to cut it through the root part like I did before. And then I am going to pull off the layers until I can get through to the nice solid part. So we just got one thick layer there. That's a little yuck. But the awesome part is that the rest of the onion is totally fine to use. So no worries. Okay, so same here on this side. Just gonna go through those thick outer layers. Now at this point, I'm just gonna give these a rinse. Half dry. There we go. So now we got rid of the icky layer on the outside and the inside is still totally fine and fresh and firm, which is really what you're looking for a good onion. Okay, so we talked about a dice. We're going to talk about a slice, which is really the easiest cutting method here. So you don't have to worry about any horizontal cuts this way. You're just gonna take your knife, give it a wipe here. And so, like I said, you decide how thick you want your cut to be. So you can make really thin slices in this direction, or you can make them really nice and wide. That's up to you. So for your slices, you're just gonna cut your slices just like so. Yeah. And then they come apart and you can use them how you like. This is a great size for caramelizing. I used a diced onion for my caramelized onions, which look fabulous. We are getting there. You can see the brown color coming through. Okay. All right. So that is how you cut slices and a dice with an onion. So this works for all types of onion, red, yellow, white onions, sweet onions, all the same cutting method. So I didn't get into it. When you've got a cold onion, think about this. So hot food, you can smell. It fills a room and you can smell it when onions are cooking. But cold food, can you smell it? Does it have a strong smell? Like, it doesn't, because the scent molecules in the food are like hanging out and staying in the food instead of going into the air when they're hot. So when something's hot, there might be some steam and it's going to let off the smell a lot more. So when you're working with cold onions, that can help reduce the amount of tears you might have because the smell is not coming out of the onion as much because it's cold. So that is another way to help you reduce like how much you might crack. So that applies to any type of round onion like this. Like they're all have a nice strong smell. Okay, so we talked about how to freeze onions, how to store onions in pantyhose, how to dice, how to cut into strips, and our first way of caramelizing. So let's take one more look at this pan. It looks delicious. That is exactly what we're looking for. Beautiful. So, yes. So that second way to caramelize, I'm just going to tell you about it. You can use a slow cooker to caramelize your This is fantastic for when you have a lot of onions that you want to cook down and get out of the way. So you can chop them up and freeze some, and then take your slow cooker, fill it with your chopped onions, add some like garlic powder, a little bit of salt. Some balsamic vinegar is really nice when you do them in the slow cooker as well. You're gonna cook them on low for 10 hours. So this is gonna be a great overnight preparation. And then the next day, your onions are going to be completely translucent and brown. Not brown with crispy edges, just brown, a beautiful caramel color. So you can take those onions and you can use them as a topping for burgers. You can put them in pasta and just like amplify the flavor of different dishes. Or you can add some beef stock to your slow cooker and you could make some French onion soup. So that first step to prepare your French onion soup in the slow cooker is caramelizing onions. So you could stop there, or you could keep on and make some soup. A little too hot for soup right now, but caramelized onions are always a great fit to add some great flavor. Okay, my friends, if you see any onions in your neighborhood pantry, or if you see them on sale, grab them in bulk, put some away for later in your freezer, and then you can also do some caramelized, you got some options. Okay, friends, you can find all of our nutrition and cooking resources on the QR code here on the screen. So you're gonna take your phone camera and pretend like you're taking a picture of it, and a little link will pop up in your camera box. So that's gonna take you to all of our resources. You can find the tips here in the videos folder under episode 60. And then we will also drop the direct link into the chat in the caption. So wherever you're watching the video, you can find the resources. Okay, friends, we'll see you in 2 weeks for another episode of Pantry to Plate. I am Kristen, the Food Bank Dietitian. See you later.